We back in the lab, we making some noise, so go turn your decibels up. Black skin, white coat, oh no, who was nice as us? Made Jimison, really told us no limit, so we about to take us up. Went from mixing in the kitchen to the lab, and now I can make this up. Whoa! B-SCI, be scientist, B-SCI, be scientist. We shining a light on the people of color to show them how fly it is. B-SCI, be scientist, B-SCI, be scientist. We back in the lab with white coats on our back, trying to show what time it is. Hey.
Welcome back to the B-Science Podcast, the podcast by the Black Science Coalition and Institute, or B-SCI. When you hear this noise, that is our in podcast station. So please go to b-sci.org to see all of our citations ever. I am geoarchaeologist Jordan Chapman, and I'm making a lot of noise because I'm moving the mic around. And as always, we have the dope chemist herself,
Jana Carpenter.
And today we're going to go through some science news. Honestly, you know, things are getting started this semester, top of the year. And we're taking it a little easy. We got some other things going on. So we're going to give you like one or two articles, but then we're going to talk about a new movie that premiered on Netflix not too long ago called Don't Look Up. And we're going to get into it. So Jenna, let's start off with saying, just how are you?
Yeah, I'm alive.
Yeah, me too. Same.
Yeah. New year, same pandemic.
Same pandemic.
Loving that.
New variant though.
New variant.
Yeah.
Hey.
Mm-hmm. And maybe we wear masks. You gotta wear different masks. We're getting new news about that our cloth masks aren't as effective as we would like them to be. So I do know that Biden in the Biden administration just okayed for I think something like couple 100 million masks and 95 and K95 masks to be shipped out to pharmacies around the country. So if you need one of those type of masks, then please go out and get one if you can.
Yeah, as well as 4 whole COVID tests shipped right to your home.
Those two, yeah.
Via USPS, which you can find, according to our vice president, if you just Google it. So
is that what she said?
Yeah, something along those lines.
I mean, I'm not putting it past her, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yep. And there's been a lot of CDC slander I've noticed on social media. But folks, look, when you're dealing with the kind of climate of sorts that we are in, socially, politically, etc., you start to connect the dots, and I say this all the time, but I say this even once more just to bring it home. Just do your research, do the diligent research that you should be doing, factual research, not just opinions, and trust and believe that the scientists who are actually working on this research are doing the good work. Cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, we didn't name this podcast "Be Scientists" for nothing, guys. Like, let's get on the ball here.
Yeah, it's fun to make fun of the CDC for, limiting the number of quarantine days to 5, but we do live in a capitalist society. That's just a fact.
Yeah,
that's just a fact. Okay,
yeah.
There's no political things happening here. I'm just stating facts. Okay, that's all I will say about that.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I understand. But we do have science news that's not, at least I don't know about yours, actually. Mine is not necessarily COVID related, but which yours?
No, mine is not either. Isn't that so exciting?
It's nice. Yeah, that's refreshing, actually.
So refreshing. Do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Sure. So, in recent news, and this is not actually new science, but something that's been developing over the course of technology's history, really, as this new, or not new, right? I just said that. Artificial intelligence network developed by Google AI, which is an offshoot of DeepMind, to look into one of the most challenging research questions that we've been trying to uncover, which is determining the entirety of the human proteome. So figuring out what proteins exist in humans as a whole, which has now become somewhat of a success with this new DeepMind program called AlphaFold. And so This actually outperformed over 100 other different teams that are looking into the, I'm going to butcher this, biennial protein structure prediction software called CASP, which is short for Critical Assessment of Structure Prediction. So this is a predictive software that's analyzing different amino acid complexes to figure out what proteins actually exist in humans based on databases and other available research. And so this is an entirely artificial intelligence created software to like map our entire proteome, which is kind of huge and something that I'm really interested in because I do metabolomics.
Right.
And so this is just one stepping stone of like figuring out how to ask more important biological questions with confidence. Now that we have these intelligent software to tell us, like, okay, if we have changes in these proteins, how does that relate to the human genome that we now have extensive research on? And how can we make predictions about how that continues to progress along central dogma, along the genome, transcriptome, proteome, metabolome, etc. So this is really exciting. It was just featured in Nature.
Ooh.
Big journal.
It's a big journal. It's a big one.
This was just released back in November, which I know is old news now. But it's still a game changer and really a big leap in understanding humans. What is it with us humans?
Right.
How do we figure this out?
You kind of already mentioned it, but it does sound like a big deal in the same way that when we completed the Human Genome Project back in like I think the 90s, that sounds like it has the similar implications, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so they base a lot of this on the Human Genome Project. And so now we're kind of just mapping our way down central dogma and figuring out how do all these puzzle pieces fit together. And this kind of makes it a lot easier for a lot of experimental designs. You know, in the past, we would try to completely uncover every single protein, every single gene, every single metabolite just from one single experiment, which is kind of impossible because you need, you know, references of other replicates and stuff. And so to be able to use a software program to kind of do that for you is kind of nice. That means you spend less time fighting over making different experiments that are all biologically relevant to each other and also consistent. Just makes it a lot easier to kind of answer the more pressing questions we have about how that affects humans. So
right.
Kind of cool.
That's cool. I mean, I don't understand a lot of it. I'm not going to lie to you.
Fair enough.
But it sounds cool. It definitely sounds useful. And I mean, the only thing I would know is that I'm going to guess that just by knowing the different proteins in the human body that will likely have big implications for things like vaccines and things like just understanding different diseases and how to, as you said, like fight those things, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because a lot of what our body does is kind of react to its outer environment, these diseases and other different stressors in the human body by like changing its structurally, like in tissues and in those tissues on the surface of those membranes, you have these proteins that all kind of help to signal different things that are happening in your body. So it's kind of a big deal if you understand all of that stuff on the molecular level, which is kind of hard to do, but luckily we have scientists who can understand that stuff.
Hey,
so.
like one right here.
I wouldn't say I completely understand it, but like I would say just in general, this is a really big deal for people who are interested in like computer science, especially that relates to like understanding biology and chemistry and all this other good stuff. That is going to be a really hot market. It already is a hot market, but if you are thinking about going into computer science or software engineering, this is where you're needed.
Right.
This is where your impact will be absolutely just expanded upon, because we need this kind of stuff. More AI research is going to help us kind of make these leaps in in science.
Cool. All right, so yeah, that's cool, Jenna. I don't also understand some of the things. I'm not so. My next story is about the Tonga volcano explosion, and I'm a geologist, but I'm not a volcanologist, so I can only tell you a little bit about this. So this eruption happened on January 15th. It happened on southwestern Pacific, I guess, or at least South Pacific island or island chain that consists of two small uninhabited islands, Hanga, Hapapia, and I'm going to pronounce these names wrong, so please forgive me if I am. In Hanga, Tonga, they're about 100 meters above sea level and about 65 kilometers north of Tonga's capital. Okay, Nuku Alufa. Again, please forgive me. However, these islands are also part of a caldera that is about 1,800 meters high and 20 kilometers, but most of which is beneath the waves. This volcano erupted, and if you haven't seen some of the pictures of it, I definitely recommend it. Some of the satellite imagery from it is actually kind of crazy. But sometimes when volcanoes erupt, especially in like these areas, in like the middle of the ocean, it can have big impacts because there's so much energy being released that it can be released. All energy is going to be released in a wave. And then because there's water around, that causes tsunami. So there were tsunamis in the South Pacific, and even some, at least warnings and advisories, even here on the west coast of the United States. I can't find anything on the total death toll from it, but it seems that some of the disaster preparedness that Tonga has put together, knowing that this is a potential problem that could happen, helped to limit deaths, according to one article. And there was one island that all the homes were destroyed and about 3 people died. But considering, while you don't want to say, oh, only 3 people died, and just leave that on the table there. However, it sounds like it could have been a lot worse, but it sounds like a lot of these tsunami warnings and just research that goes on in the South Pacific, because it's in a ring of fire, which is just a collection of what we usually refer to as that area because of all the volcanic chains and like volcanic activity that's going on in that region of the world, that there just seems to be a lot of preparedness for these things and like considerations about what this would mean, and just trying to make sure that that doesn't happen, that we don't have these huge death tolls that are just crazy. Yeah, I mean, the other thing we want to talk about today is that there was a movie on Netflix called Don't Look Up, and Jenna and I both watched it, and I didn't really understand what the movie is about, but I saw Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence in it, and I was like, those are 2 actors that I know and have enjoyed previous movies from them. So I watched it, and I don't want to spoil anything, but basically the synopsis of the movie is that there is a meteor about to hit the Earth that Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio will discover, and that they must try to warn the planet about some pretty ridiculous results. So yeah, that's pretty much what happens in the movie. We don't want to give too much away, but we are going to talk about it. So if you haven't seen it, this is kind of a spoiler alert.
Yeah, big spoiler alerts ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there's certain parts of it that I feel like we can't not talk about.
Right.
Just because it's just such a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you haven't seen it yet.
So what was your favorite part of the movie?
My favorite part for sure is when they are making calculations to see what is the margin of error of this meteor hitting the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Leonardo DiCaprio's character is doing the calculations, super excited because he's like, man, this is so cool. And he gets to the last margin of error, and it's just all zeros.
Right.
He realizes what he's doing, and he's like, oh shit.
Yeah. That part is great.
And he like has to be like, all right, everyone, let's just stop for the day. Everyone go home. Except for you.
Yeah.
We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
I think Jennifer Lawrence's character is called Kate, I think.
I don't remember her name, but yeah, let's say Kate for right now.
Oh man, let's call her Kate. I hope that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, I feel like just her character's reactions to everything is pretty much how I would react if I found this same thing out. And yeah, what's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is not too long after that. There's a scene where they're in the White House trying to explain to the president, who I think, if I'm not if I'm not getting people mixed, is that Meryl Streep who's the president?
Yeah, Meryl Streep.
So Meryl Streep is the president,
Yeah.
and Jonah Hill is her son and presidential advisor, which is just already ridiculous. That's a ridiculous sentence.
Yep.
But that's what's happening in this movie. Jennifer Lawrence walks in, and Jennifer Lawrence she's dressed professionally, but not as professionally as some other people in the room. So she walks in, and Jonah Hill says something along the lines of, he makes a stupid comment about her outfit, and then everyone in the room goes on about how, like, Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio go on about how that this meteor is coming, that they need to be prepared, they need to really start thinking that the calculations are correct. Jonah Hill makes some comments about how, that they're, for whatever reason, that their calculations aren't accurate just because they're not from an Ivy League school, which is also funny because, like, fuck him. but then right before they leave, Jonah Hill stands up and makes another comment about Jennifer Lawrence's outfit and just says something along the lines of, "Thanks for dressing up." And I just found that funny because he didn't have to do that. That was disrespectful, but it was hilarious.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, Jonah Hill's character really plays up the, like, nonchalant, like, just totally arrogant son in office, like, just nepotism all over the place.
Yes.
Absolutely playing the character up. Like, Jonah Hill is very funny.
Yeah, I mean, like, most of the things I've seen of him, he is the funniest person in the movie most of the time.
Yeah, honestly, this movie was just so interesting and kind of a little terrifying because there are just so many A-list celebrities in this movie, and this was not a very well advertised movie. They just like dropped it. I think it was the day after New Year's or Christmas.
It was one of those two. It was definitely like it's like in the holiday ether, I guess.
Yeah, and they just dropped it like it was whatever, and they talk about some really scary concepts that are honestly kind of relevant because there was just a sizable meteor that is flying or has already flown close to, or I don't know, in orbit.
There was a meteor that was pretty close to Earth's orbit. I think the size of the meteor was about the size of it was about the size of a really tall skyscraper, which is a couple of kilometers high, maybe like 1 to 2 kilometers high. The meteor in the movie, this is what I found really interesting about it, is the meteor in the movie was about a little bit bigger than the one that killed the dinosaurs. So it was about 10 kilometers, where the one that killed the dinosaurs was about 8 kilometers or so around. So it was a little bit bigger, but not that much bigger. And honestly, if you think about estimations and approximations, it could have been about the same size. But anyway, this meteor that just passed Earth, I don't think was enough to have caused an extinction, but it would definitely have like leveled out like an entire city, and it definitely like a good portion of like, say, some area if it would have impacted somewhere. So
yeah, it definitely just makes me think of like the actual reality of what would happen if an asteroid were to hit Earth, or a planet killer as they call it in the movie. Yeah, if something were to hit the Earth hard enough that it would at least maybe shift how the Earth rotates, the absolute oh my god.
Yeah. I just watched Jenna have an existential crisis.
Man.
Yeah.
Like, I know like the whole impact would be terrible, but if you were not directly next to the impact site, the shift in the momentum of the Earth's rotation would literally
we'd be done.
We would be done.
There's this is one of the things that so there was a point of time where I was just very paranoid about things like that myself. I've gotten way over it since, like, honestly becoming a scientist in a lot of ways. So basically, like, one, there is like NASA and a bunch of other space agencies around the world are always looking out for those things, because obviously that's one of the most terrifying things that could happen. We know the consequences of that. There was literally dinosaurs, and then one day there were not dinosaurs. We know how bad that could be. So there are like these systems in place to monitor the bigger asteroids in the solar system. And pretty much NASA has identified most of them. Like, NASA has done a good job of identifying the ones that would potentially be harmful to life on Earth. And because of that, we aren't too worried because most of them don't seem like they're going to be a problem. There are some out there that could be a problem, but again, that's monitoring the situation. So the movie does kind of exaggerate that part. Like if there was like an asteroid that was about to hit Earth, we know pretty far in advance. But
yeah, I don't think any like PhD candidates like Kate in the movie would be like, "Oh man, no one else has seen this.
Right.
How crazy!"
Yeah,
I highly doubt that would happen. If it did, then obviously our money is not being allocated where it needs to be.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But
yeah,
definitely, because there was also just NASA just let us know that they heard of different sound waves coming through just out of nowhere that they don't really know where it's coming from.
Right.
But it's they can't really detect what it is really. Like these things are happening all the time.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Like so even with that stuff, like Ellen and stuff like that, like SETI, I forget what SETI stands for, but they're like also like I don't know if they're part of NASA, but they're definitely part of some university like on the West Coast that monitors like stuff like that. If we were to basically, they are looking for any signs of interplanetary like communication. So that's also that's interesting. Like sometimes I get into like these weird like what the hell is happening with the science of these things. So
Yeah. Nothing to immediately concern yourself with. Don't go start. Well, if you want to, you can, but it's not necessary to go start like, doomsday prepping or anything like that. Because I'm telling you right now, not to scare you. Well, maybe I shouldn't even say that. But.
I mean, it's fair, I guess. I think the thing that really piqued me about the movie is that it's not, in the same. So it's not necessarily about, say, even just the asteroid itself or a meteor, but it's in I've seen some think pieces about how it's more about climate change. Some people have even said it's definitely like alluding to COVID. But I think the most interesting thing to me about the movie was that it's not necessarily about any one of those things, but rather it's about kind of all of those things. Like, because an asteroid is all of those things and worse, but it's also like comedically not going to happen anytime in the near future. So it's like one of those. It's definitely like it's a huge what if scenario, but it makes you think about how we've dealt with other like species like catastrophes that could happen at any moment, and how we've been not even how we dealt with them, how we are currently dealing with them.
Right.
And that's the part of the movie that I think is genius, in that it keeps dealing with these things in really fucked up and funny ways that you're just like, oh, that's real fucked up, but that's also what's happening. Like, for example, like Leonardo DiCaprio's character goes on a press tour, and like he goes on like basically this movie's version of like Good Morning America with Tyler fucking Perry out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I was like, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
But yep, they did.
Fucking Medea shows up, and you're like, okay, well, this is, I don't know what's going on right now. But then like he's sitting, like him and Jennifer Lawrence are trying to talk about how there's a meteor going to hit the Earth. I think the timeline is that it's going to hit the Earth in like something like 6 months or something like that. And they're like on national television talking about this, and like Tyler Perry, and I forget who the co-star of that show was, but
I think it's played by Kate Blanchett.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Who also plays her role so well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but then they are talking about it. But so Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio as the scientists are out there talking about this as we need to do something about this. And Tyler Perry and Kate Blanchett are basically going, okay, but yeah, on the next segment of the show, we're going to talk to our Justin Bieber stand-in. Our Justin and fucking Ariana Grande shows up too. Yep. It's because it's Kid Cudi. Yeah. So that is, and it's just like, it is ridiculous what happens, but you cannot make parallels between what's going on that show and on this movie, and then what's happening sometimes in the real world. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a really blurred line, and that does say something about how we consume like our reality, right? Like if it doesn't have any shock factor, do we even care about it? Not really,
right?
Which is not good, because there are things that we should be caring about that are currently going under the radar, just like in this movie. And like you said, it's like a really nice art piece in that really you can interpret it in any way you want to, in terms of like how it parallels to real events that are happening right now. But I will say they either intentionally or unintentionally definitely play on the, I guess, the trope of like women voicing their opinions in a manner, and they get made into a meme. Like, what? Are you kidding me? But of course, when the man, when the Dr. Man says something,
that's a good point, actually.
Oh my god! The whole time I was so angry. I was like, she literally said what you just said in your like 5-minute rant, and she got like made into a meme. But that's fine,
right? And she was the person to discover the asteroid, and like Leonardo DiCaprio does try to like, you know, he tries to give her the credit and make sure give her the credit, and the asteroid eventually winds up being named after her. But then people start to blame her, and like Leonardo is the one who goes on the press tour and like really goes up.
Yeah. There's so many things that you can unwrap from this film, honestly, and it says a lot of things about social norms, but no, I thought it was really good. I don't get why people are trash talking it so much.
Yeah, I did. There was one piece, and this was on Facebook, so also take this with a huge grain of salt. But I did see someone say something along the lines, it's not about COVID. If you're making connections to COVID, like, then that's on you. And I'm like, but it's not about COVID, because you were just saying like how it parallels our reality. And before COVID happened, you know, I think we've even talked about this a little bit here, is that there was already plans in place to try to figure out how to handle something like COVID. And that's part of the reason why we already kind of were like, here's an mRNA vaccine, why it happened so fast, is because we were thinking about it. No one was taking it seriously, and then it happened. And then even talking to people who don't have that knowledge, and I'm not saying I have like the same knowledge as say like an epidemiologist or something like that, but like knowing that COVID was basically started December of 2019, which is why it's called like SARS-CoV-2 2019 or whatever. But people are like, oh, but yeah, like, you know, whatever, they knew, but they didn't tell us. And it's like, they didn't know everything yet. And then like, so it just becomes like, you can see so many parallels between like this event and like how people just really don't understand the science sometimes, or just try to skew it.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if every time I published a paper, someone was like on the news, like, oh, someone just published this paper on this really exciting research. But no one is finding my research that interesting unless you're in my field. So all this research is happening under the radar all the time. And until it becomes relevant to our own experience is when it becomes this broadcasted thing. And people just don't understand that, like, this is a normal thing that happens in science.
It does.
Like, you do all this hard work and only, like, 5 people recognize it and, like, give you kudos for it. Unless you're, like, really cool and you come up with, like, the Human Genome Project, you're not going to really get the recognition that you know, sometimes feel that you deserve. So I wish people could understand that more, because this is not something new that keeps happening and all of a sudden we get these vaccines out of nowhere. Like, no, these things happen according to like research that is done over years. So, God, yeah.
I mean, even like climate change, for example, which is like the one that people are making the parallel to the most, is like, I was recently reading stuff about how like big oil companies and fossil fuel companies knew about climate change and how like the output of carbon into the atmosphere had been affecting the atmosphere since maybe like the 50s and 60s. And then in the same way that, what they basically did, because big tobacco was having this problem where people were like just finding out about how tobacco was bad, even though tobacco companies knew about that too, but tobacco companies also did a really good job at advertising that problem away for a while, is that climate change, like fossil fuel and oil companies were like, let's just do the same fucking thing. And then for what, like 40 to 50 plus years into it, like irreversible damage to not just like individuals, but the entire planet happened. And even now we're just like, you know, we don't really need to do some of this stuff. And it's like, but we need to do it right now. And I'm like, but profits, which becomes a huge thing at the end of Don't Look Up. And it's just crazy.
If this asteroid is going to make a lot of money, it's fine if we die, as long as we make money from it. Like, what kind of logic is that?
It's ridiculous.
Honestly. But hey, you know, we're all just trying to make $1.
Right.
Here, so.
It becomes and then also like the billionaire like person comes in and he's just it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I love that character, honestly. As terrible as he is, the big tech guy, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he is hilarious. His like whisper, little whistle tones that he does with his little voice, it kills me. It really kills me. But just like that whole character is like, that's basically, you know, you can correlate that to any number of metaphors that you want to, but just that character is like the perfect little wrench in the system that is always there, telling like the devil's advocate on the shoulder, like, oh, what if we do it this way? Oh, what if we do it that way to make more profits? Oh, I hate that character, but I love him at the same time.
It was done very well. Like he has elements of so many like popular billionaires, like. The space thing is obviously like a Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk thing, but then he goes on a rant about how he has a conversation with Leonardo DiCaprio at some point about how he basically knows everything about him, like even things that Leonardo DiCaprio, like, I never told anybody that. I didn't even know that about myself. And he's like, yeah, well, I got your data. And it's hard to not look at like, say, a Mark Zuckerberg and go, well, there's him too. And so he just is a huge amalgamation of all of these people. It's crazy.
Yeah, and just kind of going off of that, I guess, I think it's really funny, the whole, like, especially with Mark Zuckerberg's new little, like, virtual reality. Metaverse. I keep seeing those videos pop up where he's got, like, a knife behind his back, and he's like, welcome to the metaverse, and you're, like, trapped there forever. Like, that's not, you know, that's kind of not a joke. Because they really do have our data like that.
They do. It also reminds me a lot of, we've talked about this show extensively on one episode, but it's Shades of Black Mirror again. And you're just like, here we are again talking about it. And it's just like, we need to take these things a little bit more seriously because it's getting out of hand. We've seen it. We are seeing it with the pandemic again, parallel that these things need to be taken seriously, but they're not. And it's getting out of hand at this point.
Yeah. I guess all I'm going to say, and to my last point that I will say on this, because I could talk about this forever.
Yeah,
but
me too.
The last thing I will say is that I am just waiting for that one scientist to get on to Good Morning America and like rant for 5 minutes about what is actually happening in our world and what we should be concerned about. I just want to see them snap like real time.
Yeah, that'd be dope actually. Like Bill, I mean, remember when Bill Nye kind of did that on John Oliver? Like,
Man, that is true. We keep getting desensitized to stuff like that, and it concerns me. But.
Yeah, but like to have it like to happen live, like if you like imagine like a Dr. Fauci on like, you know, like you said, Good Morning America, just snap it. You would be like, whoa.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy.
It will be crazy, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I like the movie a lot. I don't know why people like. I don't know how many people didn't like it, but like, you guys. I mean, it's an opinion, I guess, but just you know, just trying to read into a little bit more, I guess, is what I'm going at.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, we're not film like critics, and I'm pretty sure a lot of whoever is critiquing these are also not film critics. So like these are all opinions, and you know, every opinion, you know, whatever, it's cool, but it's just fun to look at it at different perspectives based on what you know. So yeah, agreed.
So honestly, we don't got too many more points after that. We, as you said earlier in the show, you know, there's a lot going on. Grad school life.
Yep. Grad school is grad schooling.
Yeah. You can't really put it honestly a better way than that, Jen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some things that to look out for is that we already got our first interview lined up. Please be on the lookout for that. That's coming out like it's going to be the next episode.
Yes.
We are so reaching out to people to start doing other interviews. We're lining those up now. And we got a camera now,
and it's pretty nice.
It's a nice camera.
So
it's an expensive camera. It's nice though.
Yeah, if you start seeing us post some stuff, maybe some recorded interviews, feel free to give us a like, maybe some feedback,
some shares.
Yeah, maybe a couple shares. That would be nice.
Also, YouTube is going to be a thing soon. It's hard to tell you when, because in the same way that in some episodes of Be Scientists, we try to make sure that we have all our sources together and things like that. We want to bring that over to the videos too. So there's that. And also, in the same way, you might get the magazine soon. We're hoping we're really trying to get that out there between in like the next month or so. When I say month or so, I'm saying like March. So like, but
and this might seem surprising, but putting together a magazine is quite difficult.
Is it? Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, be patient with us. I know we've been hyping it up for a hot little minute, but it's really because we want to make sure it's something that's going to be really useful and enjoyable for everyone that interacts with it. So, we're trying our best. We want to make it good for the public, for you. So be on the lookout for that.
Be on the lookout for that. And, I mean, we don't really got too much else to say, but be scientists.
Yeah, please do continue to be scientists.
We'll catch you next time. Be Scientists is a podcast by the Black Science Coalition and Institute, or B-SCI, a 501c3 nonprofit. Be Scientists is hosted by both Jenna Carpenter, chemist and B-SCI's Research and Development Officer, and Jordan Chapman, geoarchaeologist and B-SCI's president. Music is produced by Delaralo, and lyrics are by Jana. Special thanks to Michael, Mike, Cast, and Marshall, and the Plaza Abbey Studios. If you would like to donate to B-SCI, visit our official website, bsci.org. That's b-sci.org. Your donation supports Be Scientists and B-SCI's other projects. We couldn't do it without you. So, please tune in next time, and always, be scientists.